In this session, we're going to talk about how to install Joomla on your Windows PC so that you can run what's called a localhost environment. So here I've got Firefox on my Windows machine, all ready to go. And the first step is to download a software program called WAMP. WAMP stands for Windows, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. The easiest way to do that is just go ahead and Google it. And we can see install PHP 5 Apache MySQL on Windows with a WAMP server. Go ahead and download. So once the WAMP server is downloaded, go ahead and double click on it to install it. Don't worry about the unknown publisher, just click Run, and then go through the setups. I accept the agreement, tell it where to go. You can set those icons as you would normally set for a program, and it will extract the files and install it, and in our case, put an icon on our desktop. Alright, you know WAMP is running because it's down here in the taskbar. You'll see that the server is offline. If you click on it and go ahead and go to the Start All Services, it's now starting up a web application called Apache running MySQL and PHP, but this isn't actually changing your Windows setup, so you don't have to worry about that. If I go ahead and click one more time, I can now go to my local host, which is a local web server on my computer. Now, the one great thing about this is, unless your machine is completely open to the internet, this is a very secure environment in which you can develop your Joomla website. You can play around, you can change things, you can do whatever you want. Nobody can access it, and nobody can hack it. And when you're ready, you can just back it up, send it to a live server using something like Joomla Pack, and you'll be ready to go. The next step is to download Joomla. Joomla.org. And click the download button. Always get the latest download, which at this point is 1.6.3, and save the file. Once you have the file downloaded, go down here to WAMP and open up your www directory, and then just click and drag the zip file over. And of course, extract everything. Once the files have been extracted, I usually go ahead and rename the folder. It's a pain to actually type all of that in, so I usually just type Joomla or Joomla 1 or Joomla 16 or whatever. Let's just go with Joomla 16 for now. Now there's one last step we need to do before we can actually install Joomla. Again, go down to your WAMP server, click on phpMyAdmin. It'll open up your phpMyAdmin, which is the administrative interface for your MySQL database. As you probably remember from the CMS tutorial, Joomla needs a database to run. So we'll just create a database. I usually, when I'm developing on a localhost machine like this, use the same database name as the folder name. It just helps me to keep everything consistent like that. Now we don't need to do anything else here, so we can close this window. So then the last step now is to install Joomla. Just go to localhost, Joomla 16, and our installation screen pops up. We're going to select English for the United States. Now here's a couple of things that are important to note. On a local machine, it's not quite as critical if a couple of these are in red. Display errors being on is not a big deal. Output buffering is not a huge issue. But before this site goes to a live server, if you're just going to move it up, I would strongly recommend that you fix these in your php.ini file so that these are all green. And to do that, again down to WAMP server, PHP, php.ini, and from here I can search for output buffer and turn it off. And I can search for display errors, and I can also turn that off. Click Save, and close that out. Now notice once I've done that, I can't just go ahead and hit refresh. I need to restart all services. And then refresh, and now we're all good. Click Next, the GPL license, and now my database settings. I'm using a MySQL database, localhost. The username is root. There is no password. And my database name is Joomla 16. Click Next. Most users can skip this step. And now we have our site settings to fill in. I would strongly recommend that you don't use the name admin. And even though this is a local machine, use a strong password. And we'll talk about that later on. And go ahead and install the sample data. Sample data is installed. Don't need to remember the password. Joomla 1.6 gives us a nice button to remove the installation folder automatically, so we don't have to go back into our FTP. Click on the Site button, and we've got a new Joomla site running on our Windows machine in a localhost environment.